Welcome to the Journey Podcast, and thanks for taking a little bit of extra time out of your week this week to join us as we continue to learn together how hearing other stories helps us to live a better story ourselves. Worship is such a massive part of our faith. Worshiping in a community and giving God the glory that He's due helps us to grow closer to Him. And as a worship leader myself, it comes with its own unique challenges and obstacles that I have to learn to overcome. Today I'm joined by Grant Dunnaway, a young worship leader in his own right, who is learning both how to grow into a person and as a worship leader, and some of the lessons that transfer outside of playing music in worship. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hey, and welcome back to the Journey Podcast. My name is Eli, and today I have the privilege of being joined by a young man who is really integral to a lot of the worship we do at Crosspoint. He serves a lot in Bracken County, and he heads up our entire youth worship ministry. Today I'm joined by Grant Dunnaway. Hey, Grant, how's it going?
What's up?
Hey, buddy. Grant has become a really good friend of mine over the course of the last little while, and I'm just always glad to have someone else who appreciates worship music on here. But anyway, for anybody who may not know you, Grant, how about you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a sophomore in high school. This is probably my second year doing worship, probably.
Yeah, something like that.
And I lead a lot in Augusta. I'm in one of the campuses at least once a week, and music is a very large part of my life.
Yeah. So how long then, I know you just said you've been doing worship music for the last couple years. How long have you been playing just music in general? Like, how long have you been playing guitar and singing?
Well, probably 2.5, somewhere around there. I played for a little bit, and then I got interested in songwriting, and I remember coming to the church.
Yeah.
And meeting with you, and originally we were just going to work on songwriting and stuff, and then I started going to youth group and playing with you there. Yeah. And it just all kind of took off from there.
I actually remember pretty vividly when you came in. You know, it's funny because I didn't remember the circumstances for a while until you and I had talked about it a couple weeks ago. But I remembered you coming in and I'll be honest, you know, sometimes when people come in, I try to mitigate expectations, you know what I mean? Right. Like, and I think, you know, a lot of people can learn to do stuff well, but especially when you're younger, you know, you haven't always found your voice. You haven't always found your playing style. But I remember the song you auditioned, because I think we audition our best whenever we're doing a song that we know, that we're comfortable with, that we enjoy, you know? And so oftentimes my method of auditioning people doesn't even include, you don't have to do a worship song, right? It can be a song that you just love. I just want to be able to hear you sing, hear how comfortable you are, because I believe that you care about worship music or you wouldn't be trying to audition. And I believe that, you'll be able to find your way no matter what. But I remember you came in and you did Lady May by Tyler Childers. And I remember thinking, like, it was weird because I was like, I had this almost like retroactive jealousy, where I was like, man, dude, if I was like half as talented as this, if I was half as talented as this kid is when I was his age, I would have been set. Like, I would have been able to do whatever. But no, I think it's just a testament to your skill level and your work ethic. So, you know, I mean, I brag on you all the time. I just don't always brag to you. Maybe I should do that more often.
Maybe.
Blow up your head a little bit. Well, I guess that just leads me to, like you said, you know, I know you and I have had a lot of personal conversations about how you're interested in doing worship music and how it impacts you and how you feel the weight of that. When did you feel kind of that pull towards worship music, and maybe what made you feel that pull towards worship music? Because I feel like for me in my life, like, I felt a very specific pull where for a lot of years I was touring in a lot of different kinds of bands, and then one day I remember vividly feeling this pull to worship music. Mm-hmm. Do you have a moment like that, or is it just kind of like It's just there.
Well, I've always grown up in church, but originally when I started playing in the band, I was still not only incredibly at that point new to worship music and being in that like place,
Yeah.
but also just new to music in general. So it was nerve-wracking at first, and I was honestly really just up there trying to play music. I wasn't focused on anything else.
Sure.
And just because the nerves were so much, and yeah, it's just a new place for me. But when those started to calm down and I started to get a closer relationship with you, and we got to have those conversations of like, what are we really doing this for?
Yeah.
You know, we're not up here to perform for people and try to be the best. We're up here to lead people through this moment of worship and stuff.
Yeah.
And when I sat with that and kind of thought about it, that's when I started to get serious. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to be leading people through this time.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get these experiences that I never had before, and I want other people to feel what it's like.
For sure. Which kind of speaks a little bit to like leading. You know, it's funny. I listened to a lot to Jeremy Riddle, who's probably my favorite worship leader, and I remember listening to a sermon of his where he talked about, you know, the phrase worship leader is kind of like, it's a bit taboo. Maybe it's a bit just like, okay, like do we really need to like lead people to worship? And I know some of the conversations you and I have had. I really like the way that we approach it, and our team approaches it. Not just me. I mean, I think really everybody on our team here at either campus approaches it of saying like, hey, we really want to like facilitate a moment, right? So we create this atmosphere and we say, okay, we're going to play these songs in this very specific, intentional way. We're going to pick these songs because this is the heart of what is being spoken about in the message. This is what's happening culturally. This is what's happening in the life of our church that we know about. This is stuff that we can specifically speak to that hopefully gets people in a moment, in a space to reflect, right? And then we say our goal is to like try and get out of the way, right? So what does that mean to you a little bit? Because to me, you know, I think one of the most important parts is getting out of the way. Right? One of the most important parts is saying, okay, we're singing these songs. We've set this table from the moment we get there, and we prayerfully approach rehearsal and run down and prepare the Sunday morning. And then we say, okay, now the moment is between whoever is there singing the song, including ourselves, because we can't exclude ourselves from that moment, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So when we say, all right, we're here as a body, we're here as a unified body of Christ pursuing one thing. And now we've set these songs up, we've practiced, we're giving our best effort to sound good musically. And now we're saying, okay, here's your chance. And basically just saying, okay, if you want to go, let's meet with God. Let's create this space to meet with God. Maybe what does that mean to you? Like from your perspective?
Well, again, at first, that was really hard for me to, you know, like accept and to start to get into. But when I did start to get more serious, you know, I started to read the Bible more, and we started having more serious talks about it. Yeah. And in the Bible, it says a lot, like, let God use you as a tool. Yeah. And of course, it can kind of get murky sometimes because you're trying to help people get to this moment, but you're also trying to be in that moment too.
For sure.
So it can definitely get a little crazy sometimes, to say the least. And also, on top of we're human too, and we make mistakes on stage. Sure. I can't literally say the amount of times in the past 2 years where we're running around trying to figure things out, which can be very funny. But I think just the biggest thing is to be intentional in what we're doing, and just always remember that. Yeah. That we're here to do this. We're not here to get praised by anybody. We're here to praise God.
For sure.
And I think that's literally the most important part.
And knowing, both myself and musicians and other worship leaders in the past, I know that can be like a common refrain, is like, that can be a hard obstacle to overcome, because at the end of the day, you know, what we're doing is an art thing that we care a lot about. Like, I care a lot about music even outside of just worship music.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Right? And I care a lot about, like, it's such a fine line, because you want to sound good and you want people to appreciate all the work that you put into it. Because I know you practice like crazy. I know you put a ton of effort into getting better.
All the band.
All the time. You know, I know Adam he plays drums all the time, trying to get better and better and better. You know, BJ, I mean, incredible piano player. You know, multiple vocalists come here during the week to meet with me so that we can work together and try and get better. You know, and so there's this weird line between, like, okay, we're putting in a ton of effort that people don't even know about to try and really, like, for lack of a better word, kind of perfect this craft. Obviously, you never get perfect at it, but you do your best to get better and better. And so there is that weird, like, push and pull of wanting to be appreciated and wanting to, for people to see that work ethic and that effort come to fruition, while still saying, like, okay, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me. And, like, really trying to remind yourself over and over and over again, because it is a slippery slope.
Definitely.
Right? And it does slip really easily. I mean, I know you and I have had plenty of discussions where it's even been like, man, like, I'm really struggling mentally to, like, be in that place, you know? And this is me talking. I've told you from my perspective, where I'm like, man, like, I am just not feeling it this week. And it is really, really hard for me. And I know I have my strategies and my attempts to try and pull myself out of that and, like, get myself to a place where I can sing and lead. Because to me, when we use the phrase worship leader, that is really wrapped up in the idea that we are leading the way, in the sense that this is something we've been preparing for, right? And the hope is that when people come to church and they engage in worship and they're worshiping with us, we've already been prayerfully asking God to be with us through that whole morning, right? Prayerfully seeking and petitioning and saying, God, whatever you want to do, this time is yours, this space is yours, this effort is yours, this musical performance, I say in air quotes, obviously there's the caveat. Technically, in the technical sense, you are performing, but you're not performing for that. You get what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Anyway, all that bit of rambling just to say, it can be so difficult to know you're being authentic, right? To know, like, hey, even though I struggled this week and maybe I had thoughts that weren't the best, or I feel like I've fallen short or sinned in this way, and feelings of inadequacy and feelings of saying, like, man, who am I to try and lead anybody in anything? Who am I to, like, go forward in front of people? You know what I mean? How do you fight that? Like,
well, there's definitely a few ways. Obviously, I talk to you a lot. I think that everyone who goes to church, I could not push this enough to make relationships with people that understand things, people that have been around, whether it's worship or just ministry in general, longer than you have.
Definitely.
And be able to have those conversations where you can be real and just be like, you know, I'm having a rough week. I don't really know if I can lead this week, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And of course, another amazing way is just go and pray to God.
For sure.
And be real about it, be intentional about it, and make your request.
Yeah.
And
which, isn't it funny that we feel so often we have to, like, in our prayer, we have to, like, all right, I gotta say this perfect. Like, I gotta really explain to God as if he doesn't already know.
Yeah.
Like,
just be real.
Yeah, just be real. For
Definitely.
sure.
And something that I have to do often, I am definitely an overthinker, is just to say, you know what, I'm human. Like, I'm going to mess up, and especially at my age, I'm 16, I'm going to mess up.
Yeah.
I'm going to mess up in the future. I might mess up tomorrow, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. And it can be a hard thing to be in worship, especially, you know, leading people, leading a team, all that good stuff, because it's a hard thing to talk about, but when you're in that position, whether you like it or not, people look up to you.
Yeah, for sure.
And it can definitely, for me, since half of the team for youth is older than me, to be like, okay, well, these guys are 2 years older than me and I'm leading them. Like, is this okay? Like, am I supposed to be doing this? And, you know, oftentimes I've got caught up in just, you know, feeling like I'm enough for it.
Definitely.
And the only way you can get through that is prayer and being real with yourself. Like, everybody messes up.
Yeah.
And that's all right.
Yeah. And I think that is a really hard place to come to, because I think even outside of being musicians and worship musicians, like, it's very, very easy as followers of Christ to let shame seep into our everyday life and, like, forget that he's covered it. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, it's really easy to forget, like, okay, it's very easy. It's very easy for us to say, yeah, I mess up all the time. Like, I know I mess up. But then for some reason, once we actually do mess up, it's almost like we're surprised we messed up and we're like, oh man, I'm so unworthy. Like,
what am I going to do?
Like, what am I going to do? I'm freaking out because like, here I am. I'm supposed to set an example. I'm on stage. I'm singing these worship songs and people have a certain opinion of me, and you start suddenly getting caught up in all this stuff that you really don't need to be caught up in, because the reality is that's what's taking our focus off of Christ. Is we're getting so wrapped up in the shame and the perception of whatever sin that we're dealing with, and in reality, if we keep our focus on Christ, then he reminds us of our identity. He reminds us of, hey, I have you in this place to worship and go forward and prepare the way for people, and just to rest in him and rest and trust in the fact that he puts us in a place for a purpose, and not just saying like, oh, like, my worthiness and my capability is based and predicated entirely on my own actions, when it couldn't be further from the truth. The reality of that is God tasks us and says, hey, lead my people in worship, and begin surrendering your time to me first thing. Like, that's the focus. Is saying, okay, God has called me to this. God has appointed this to me. God has pointed me in this direction. I'm going to pursue that. Because when we start looking back on our guilt and shame, and we start looking back, and that's not to say, you know, that's not to say that we need to pretend like everything we do is permissible. You know, everything is permissible, but not everything strengthens, kind of thing.
Right.
Like, no, we still need to, like, do our best to uphold the weight of our calling and say, I'm going to act in a way that I know I'm called to. But that doesn't mean there isn't space for grace. That doesn't mean there isn't space to say, man, like, I'm a person. Like, it still is what it is, you know? Anyway, I don't know. I just think that sometimes it's so easy for us to put more pressure on us when the reality is, the more we focus on his worthiness and his holiness, the more we're just going to feel like so rested in that time, and our failures are going to pale so much in comparison to the glory that we know he is when we focus on that first. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So anyway, I don't know, man. I don't get to talk about worship a whole lot. Yeah. This is the first time I've ever gotten to talk about worship on this podcast. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's
fun.
It's kind of my wheelhouse, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I anyway. Yeah. So regardless, you know, circling back a little bit, you know, I think it's really cool. I didn't start worship music. Man, I had to have been 21 before I really started taking worship music seriously. What's it like for you? I think as a 16-year-old, as a young guy, because you have, I mean, a lot. Like I said, you have the talent to do just about anything you want. I mean, I know I've like nudged you and been like, "Hey, man, come on, you should just do worship music." You know. But like, yeah, what's it like blending that with like school and like the rigors of life? And it's unique, it's unique to you. It's something that I can't experience and have never experienced.
Well, I'm still experiencing new things with it. Yeah. Obviously. It's a lot of new stuff, and that's what keeps it really fun for me. Honestly, it's not a job to me.
Sure, yeah.
It's a fun thing to me. I choose to do this because I could go out every single night with my friends, waste a bunch of time, or like we've talked about, I can do my part to help people to do all this stuff. And it's really fun. I'm learning things that I would have never learned before if I hadn't chose to, start coming to the church weekly and stuff like that. But it can sometimes be stressful because I am 16. Yeah. I'm learning to drive now. I'm, going to school every day.
You're just learning worship. You're learning how life.
Mm-hmm. Like definitely
to be an adult.
A lot of new things.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I said, it can be stressful, obviously, just with everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm learning a lot of new things, and those things are really crucial to worship. And I don't know, I wouldn't choose to do literally anything else. It's not like I only play worship music. Sometimes people do get... I have people come up to me and they'll ask me, could you sing this worship song for me? Can you sing this worship song for me out of church?
Yeah.
Like I play other music, guys.
Yeah.
We all play other music.
Yeah.
Like me and you were just talking about yesterday that we were wanting to write some folk stuff.
Yeah. That'd be a lot of fun.
Just because, there's more. There's more to it.
Well, and it's okay. Like you have permission to just be a musician too.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Like God doesn't look at that stuff and say, "Hold on, you wrote a song that isn't worship music." Yeah. No,
You're
not on my watch. Not on
worship.
my watch.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to just like it's okay. Like I mean, because I found that even just writing songs about like stuff that I feel and think, it's a great outlet. Like it's a great just emotional outlet.
Way to get stuff out.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And you can do that through worship music.
100%. And we do.
And we do.
Yeah.
We do. But sometimes it's just fun.
Yeah.
And it's, I wrote a crap ton of little things that I'm never, ever going to release.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Never actually without Eli ever in my life. But no, I think that right now in my life, everything's kind of well balanced.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm here a lot, but that's what I choose to do. It's not like I'm being pushed to do it or anything like that. So yeah.
So I have a very, and if you don't want to answer this, we can cut it. But I have a very real question for you.
Okay.
You're, like we've said, you're young. I hate to keep focusing on that, but it is uncommon to have someone as young as you are be as dedicated as you are. Mm-hmm. Is there a part of you that worries that because you're so devoted and you care so much that it'll be too much too early and it'll be hard to sustain?
No, not really. I mean, I've thought about it, obviously.
Yeah.
But, me and you have talked a lot about that in general. And although I do quite a bit in the church, it's not like it's a job to me. Like sure. I'm not here every single day constantly working on stuff. I have time to do other things. And if I ever was in that spot where it's becoming too much, I know there's people here that I can just say, this is a lot right now. I'm dealing with some stuff in school, mentally, whatever.
Yeah.
And I can, it's not like I'm forced to do it, like I said again. So it doesn't worry me now.
Yeah. I was just curious. I know for me, it's, obviously my job. It's what I'm paid to do, to focus on. And I know there are plenty of times where it is overwhelming for me, and it is like I feel like the weight of it. Every year around Easter, it's like so much is happening, and you've got so much. You feel all this pressure to do this perfect service, whether it's self-imposed or the pressure is really there, whatever. I think of that as a time where it feels like a lot. But I just can't. I think about everything with life, and just I have a ton of respect for you and the effort that you put into it, because it can be, like you said, it can be a lot. It can be a lot. And people underestimate, I know a lot of people talk about like, oh, you couldn't pay me to go up there and sing. You couldn't, but I think for people like you and I, like, singing feels so kind of second nature that we forget about how vulnerable it is sometimes.
Yeah, and especially after doing it.
Yeah.
For every Sunday.
Forever. Yeah, for a long, long time. And I just think about it sometimes, like I'm terrible at napping, like throughout the week. But every Sunday I go home from church and I'm just dead. Like I fall asleep within an hour, like every week after church, because I'm just, and I don't know that it's true. Maybe it's because you're just spending all day like being on and feeling like, all right, I got to be authentic. I got to be sincere. I got to be, don't put walls up. Don't like do this. If like we're trying to make sure that people see that it's okay to worship outwardly. We're trying to, encourage people to sing. We're trying to do this. And all the while, that like, if you play poorly, people are also going to notice that too, and it's like there's all this kind of like pressure day in and day out. And I guess I was just curious how that sits on you.
For me, I've always kind of not always like pressure, but I don't think pressure is a bad thing.
No, it's not.
I don't think pressure is a bad thing. I think in portion, it can be a very good thing.
Sure.
And it's also very rewarding.
Yeah.
On Sunday, I just, as an example, like if I'm last year when we did the last youth night of the year, when we are doing full band, and full band's always kind of stressful at youth because we're kids,
a bunch of young people, young folks,
and but after doing all that and you're seeing how people are reacting and all this stuff, it's rewarding. Especially I've seen it a lot in youth group.
For
lot.
Sure.
Over the past 2 years when we weren't having worship that much, from where we are now, it's insane to see. And I wish more people could see it because, like there is the pressure of it. And then, but just as an example, like we played Praise probably a month or two ago. And that's a tough song for new musicians, for me. It's a high song, whatever. But to sing it and then to see God moving around the room and people that are under 18 is just such a good thing to see.
Well, especially because like you normally only see that stuff at like youth camps and stuff. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I know the common refrain is like, hey, let's keep this with us. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. But it's really hard to keep it going once everybody gets in the rhythm of school and sports and this and that and the other. And so to see that as like a regular occurrence at like a regular youth gathering is awesome. I mean, it's just awesome. Well, appreciate you being here, Grant.
Yep.
I mean, you were here anyway.
I was here.
But we kind of just decided, kind of spur of the moment, just to jump in. Hey, well, let's just do this.
Let's just talk about worship.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you being here, and I just respect the heck out of you, and you're such a good dude, and I'm honored to be able to go through life with you, and everybody joining us. We appreciate you checking in for another episode of the Journey Podcast. And if you haven't listened yet, we have a handful of episodes that we've done in the past that I personally think are very interesting, and hopefully you would find interesting too. So we hope you join us next time on the Journey Podcast, where we believe hearing other stories helps us to live a better story ourselves. We hope to catch you next time.